Hello everyone, I'm Susan Lee MacDonald and welcome back to my show, The Interview. Hollywood has got to be the hottest entertainment scene in the world, with countless beautiful and handsome people coming and trying to be the next superstar. It's not easy to succeed in Hollywood, and especially in such a competitive industry, there's someone always wanting that special job. Today we're going to meet a Korean who has lived the dream of dreams. She has become a super Hollywood art director. We're going to meet Han Yoo-jung, who is so successful that you're going to learn so much about her life and what it's like to be in Hollywood.
Countless people flock to Hollywood with dreams of making it big in the world's top film industry. But Han Yoo-jung, who had lived in Korea most of her life, successfully established herself as a production designer and art director in Tinseltown. After graduating from university in Korea, Han Yoo-jung headed over to America in pursuit of her dream, which was to study set design. Although she was hardworking and driven, that didn't guarantee her success in Hollywood. She faced many challenges and hardships before she could finally get a chance to prove herself. Her inspirational story begins right now.
I'd like to welcome you to my show. It's such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
So tell us about some of the projects that you're currently working on.
I just finished, before I came to Korea, working on this set that it was a small set, but we had to make this set versatile because this set is used to be, it's going to be used for CNN and Fox interviews, or sometimes it's kind of news desk type of sets.
Okay.
So yeah, that's what I just finished.
If you're doing a set for a client and they have all these different requests, that you really try to not only meet their expectations, but want to do something a little bit different than what's already been done before.
Yes.
Because let's say, for example, the news desk scene or these interview sets tend to look kind of similar from place to place to place. So how do you create something that looks a little bit different and that gives a little of your own flavor?
Oh, that's a good question, but difficult question too. But because, you know, every set, I think it's all about the balance. Because, again, like you said, there's something maybe that I want, but it's not all about me. And, you know, I cannot ignore my client's opinion, because ultimately what makes him or her happy is what they want, right? And I'm hired. So, yeah, but then at the same time, I don't want to create something that looks like you've seen it before. And then, but then at the same time, sometimes if you create something so unusual and new, they don't like it, because they don't want it to be too experimental, because they want you to keep the flow of what other people did or are doing, but maybe a little bit different.
I see.
Hello. She's the new designer we've had working with us.
A drama romance film last night about an upper-class couple from New York spending a night together received praise for its sophisticated backdrop. Better Luck Tomorrow, it debuted at the Sundance Film Festival, where it was nominated for the Grand Jury Prize.
I am doing Vegetaforce.
She worked her magic on numerous films, ranging from low-budget indie films to blockbuster films.
Good for you, Lainey. Good for you. I'm so...
She has worked with famous producers and production companies, including Paramount, Warner Brothers, ESPN, and NBC, and established herself as an art director and production designer by delivering what her clients want and need at all times.
Our first lovely couple is Katie.
I wonder what an art director does. A production designer, art director, is it the same thing, and what do they do?
I just want to, for the audience, I just want to clarify what art director does and production designer does too.
Okay.
Production designer is the head of art department and in charge of the overlook of the film and TV and commercial and music videos. But art director is the right-hand person of the the production designer.
I see.
And art director is usually in charge of building, like construction.
Oh, wow.
And they're the one oversees everything. So let's put it this way: production designer is comes up with a concept for the whole show, but art director is the one making it happen.
I see.
Like physically, they go to set, they go to construction site, they go to like shop and see how the building comes through and all of that, and they report it back to production designer. Because a lot of times production designer is very busy with bunch of meetings and scoutings and budgeting and all those not fun stuff sometimes.
What is the most memorable film that you've worked on?
Better Luck Tomorrow is the most memorable film, not because it made such a remarkable ending, or that it was recognized based compared to what we spent or how small it was, and on top of that, it was first Asian American movie that I felt like it made some marks in Hollywood as a like original Asian American made film.
Which is not very common, as we know.
Yeah, as we know, I mean, so many of them were made, but none of them, or very few of them, got attention, right?
Yes.
And but this project made a mark, and that's how I felt. And also, this project, I went through so many hard times, and I learned a lot. But it was very, very challenging and difficult project. So I think that's why it's very memorable.
Tell me about what was it that was difficult working on that project. I imagine that no project is an easy project because you're having to work and create things from your brain and use that artistic talent. But what was it that was really hard?
Mostly it was people who were really difficult for me to deal with, because I was very young, and B, most of the people that worked for me were skilled, but they were like 20 years senior to me, and they kind of treated me like I don't know anything, right? But at the same time, I knew what I want, and I had to explain this to them. And some of the bad people try to use my age or my, to them, ignorance. They try to use that against me, and they really did, because like, for example, the painter that I hired, it was one of the most important set we had to finish. It was a set that the end, it's ending scene, like, so it was very important, and it was a heavy painting related set. And painter, he started working, and one day we're very close to shoot, and he showed up and he goes, you know what, I got other job. So we're talking about morning. We all showed up. I'm expecting him to work.
Yes.
And he's like, I got to go to other work and I'll come back at 6 p.m.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And then he goes, no, I'm not kidding. And I will be back and I'll finish your show. But in the meantime, I'll put my friend in your show so you have somebody. I thought, okay, you know, thanks for telling me now, but at least he thought about backup plan. So I tried to deal with his friend, and his friend wasn't the painter.
Oh no, he wasn't even a painter.
He wasn't. He pretended like, but you know, once you see what he did, then you could tell like, okay, this guy is not trained painter, because he made this like in between the set pieces. We call it flat. You know, there's a big piece of wall. We put it together to create the set. We call them flat. And then in between flat, there's a gap. We had to patch that gap, right?
I see.
So camera doesn't see that gap when they try to close up on you. And then he did that. He did the patching. Usually people do that very thin, but he did it like this thick.
Oh.
I had to grind them.
Oh my goodness, you had to.
I had to grind them. So it was more work than actually, he wasn't helping me. He was creating more problem. So I'm like, I can't have this guy. So by the time he came back, this guy who went to work, I said, I'm sorry, I cannot have your friend here because he did this and that and that. And he's like, oh, you're insulting my friend. And he's like, you know what? You know, and then he started like kind of threatening me and stuff. And
oh my goodness.
I figured I had to fire him.
Yeah.
That was the first project I ever fired somebody. So I had to fire him, and he started screaming at me, saying, he's like, oh, you fire me? And the kind of thing. It was like, who are you? And then
You're his boss, is who you are.
And then he actually, I remember he pointed at me and he's like, I'm gonna remember you. That's what he said to me. And I looked back at him and I said, I'm gonna remember you too.
When people think that they can take advantage of you because of your age or because you're a woman or because of any number of list of things, you see someone's true character come out, and it just is so disappointing sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah. We usually kind of, as a joke, we say, because when you're in the pre-production, everyone is nice, because you have to make friends with everyone. But true personality comes out on the first day of shooting, almost immediately, because so many things are happening here and there, and it's real, right? It's not preparing. This is a real time. And that's, I think, a lot of times I see like angel turn into evil, and then that's the day you can find out who's your friend that you can carry for the rest of the show, and who's your like kind of, you know, who's on your blacklist per se.
You've worked on not only movies but also, is it commercials and some other videos? What are some of the other types of film work that you've done?
I've done movies, TV shows, and commercials, and music videos. That category has its own, I think, character per se. And music video, I have to say, it was the hardest because I worked like 3 hours straight without any sleep. And I almost fell asleep on the freeway while I was driving back home.
That's not good.
No, but it was a fun experience because you have music. You don't have to worry about sound. You know, people just play music and some crew members dance and stuff like that. So it's a fun environment, but it's hard.
But why do you have to do a music video for 32 hours straight? Is that just because it just needed to be done quickly?
It usually comes from cheap production because not only it's the labor part, usually it's a location. If you want to do your job properly or others do it properly, you have to get enough time to be prepared for the shoot day, right? So, but then every day, location charges production. And sometimes when production want to save their money, they get like, instead of 2-3 days of prep days, they get 1 day of prep. That was a situation over there. And it was 1 day prep, and next day we had to shoot. And the 1 day, we had to do a lot of things. Like, it was a banquet room on the basement of the hotel. So we got carpet, just typical those carpets and walls and stuff like that, round table we had to clean up. And then we had to turn it into the jungle, like, you know, mysterious kind of mountain.
Oh my
things
goodness.
With no money. I had like $500 as a budget.
Whoa. Wait, 500.
500.
Not 500,000.
No,
500.
no, $500 to get like about 50 plants, like we're talking about big trees and stuff like that, and wallpapers, and I had to create. So my idea was like, okay, we're not going to see the floor, and I had to turn every single column like those to look like the stone. And I put all the trees in between, and it worked out. But I had to beg around the town to get stuff for like $10 here, $50 here. Somehow I made it happen, but that was like, what, over 10 years ago? It was possible then. I don't know if it's possible now.
Well, it sounds like you have not only creativity with the work that you do, but in order to get the job done, you really have to become very creative to get the job itself done.
Yes. You have to.
Yeah.
And then so many also, you have to be really good with the timing too. Like, you know, for example, also one of the shows, it's very impressive to me, or it's memorable to me, was a Pepsi commercial. And we had to scout 7 cities in 7 days. Yeah, right? You're like, and this is not city next to each other. We're talking about East Coast, West Coast, South, North. We had to travel all over in 7 days. So production decided to get a private jet. And it was 10, 11 men, male producers, and me. Right? So it was 12 of us that start traveling. And then some of the producers were also location and location managers and stuff like that. So we traveled together, hit each city. Minute we land, we dump our luggage in our hotel room. We had to meet downstairs and start scouting the places.
Wow.
And I had to draw as we scout because the production will utilize this drawing to present to Pepsi client.
I see.
So I had to draw, and we had to come up with quick idea, and then we start like applying those ideas to the drawing. We fax them over to the client.
Wow.
And then they will say yes or no, or like giving us their own opinion by the end of that night. So we have to apply that note to next city. So we travel like city after city.
Even with just a few $1,000s, she can completely transform a filming set, making it look like it's worth $1 million. But before she was given a chance to prove herself, she had to overcome many challenges, including racial and gender discriminations against her. She has a keen eye and pays attention to every little detail. And in Hollywood, she is regarded as an outstanding art director with a creative vision who can create the perfect set that meets the client's needs while at the same time adds her personal touch.
So Yoo-jung, have you always wanted to be an art director and production designer?
No, actually, I started doing art since I was 10. So I thought that was just my destiny somehow. But I didn't know where in the art, who I want to be, none of those. And I went to art schools one after another. And in junior high, maybe one day I just thought I'm going to be a great painter, or a great artist. I didn't know what category. And one day I went to my friend's house and I ran into her vocal teacher. And he happened to just see me and saying, "Hey, what's your major?" I told him, my major is art. And he goes, "Oh, if you're majoring in art, why don't you try to be a theatrical designer or a scenic designer?" He just threw it out there. I didn't know what that means, but somehow that word stuck in my head. And I came back, I tried to research what that means, but we didn't have internet back then in the 80s. And I tried to search as much as possible with very limited sources, but somehow I got connected to that word. So I figured, you know what, I'm gonna be a set designer. So my life completely changed after that because naturally, I'm a art person, like doing drawings and paintings in a very natural way. I don't like to do artificial kind of, we call it 구성. And in order to get into our college in Korea back then, if I want to be majored in design, I had to learn how to do this very clean lines and everything perfect kind of looking 구성, we call it. And I hated that. And I'm like, is there any way I can continue to draw like I did before, but design is my major? And there was no way, right? So I had to force myself to learn that, and I got into college. But when I choose a college, I chose the major, it's the closest as possible to set design.
I bet at that time, the title of a set designer was almost unfamiliar in Korea.
Yes.
And if you were to say to someone, "Oh, my dream is to become a set designer," of course, everyone nowadays with the musicals and operas, Korea is so culturally just vibrant that people know what that is. But back in the day, what would people say to you when you said that that's what you wanted to do?
They said I'm crazy. They're like, "Do you even know what this means?" I'm like, "No, I don't, but I just want to be that person." And they're like, "Then you're crazy, right?" Including my parents. My parents said, I don't know if you heard this term called 딴따라.
Yes.
My parents, without knowing what that means, immediately their impression was, okay, that's 딴따라's job. So why you want to go there? You have this great major, the interior design. My dad is a developer / architect, so it's along that area. And my parents thought, you're already doing something great. Maybe you can follow your father's footsteps. Your father can help you. It seemed like a perfect future fits with my major. And then now I'm trying to do this, and they're like, we don't understand, right? So it was every single step I take, try to get closer to set design was a battle, not just outside of our family, inside of our family too. So
when if ever, did your family start to support you with your desire to do set design? What happened after you went to college for interior design?
First year of college, I asked my dad, can I go to States? Because one thing I knew was in States, there is this major existing, you know, set design, theatrical design, scenic design. Even finding that term, theatrical design or scenic design, to me that was difficult already. But I found it out, and then I'm like, okay, I have to go to States. And I asked my dad, and he's like, why don't you try to finish the college? You went to good school, try to finish. So I finished, and he's like, why don't you get married and go there with your husband? I was like, this is totally out of my plan. You know, the husband or man figure wasn't part of my future plan at the time. So that's when I realized all this. I was actually depressed for like 6 months. You know, I was very like, I couldn't find anything I wanted. So I started playing pool, then you know, hanging out with friends, and I did things that my parents didn't like me to do, like serving in cafeteria and stuff like that. And one day I realized I'm just wasting my time. And still I do have a dream, and I should pursue that. And I sat down and I start questioning myself. I'm like, what can I do to pursue that dream that I just kind of forgot about for 6 months?
And then what did you decide?
I decided to get a job and make money. So then, because I realized all these complaints I had towards my parents or my surroundings, because my friends are like going to like Europe or States to, you know, study further. I'm like, why is it so difficult for me, right? And then I realized the reason why I'm torturing myself or like I'm disappointed is because I was trying to lean on my parents or trying to get support from someone else instead of I'm supporting myself. So I figure I should support myself. So that's why, and then you know, immediately you think, okay, then I need money, right?
Yes.
So I need a job, and I need a really good job to pay really good money too. So
were you trying to get a job so that you could save enough to go to the States and do the major that you really wanted to do?
Yes, that's what I wanted. And but I didn't want to find a job. It's like completely out of the course, because I everything I do or did, I want that to be helpful towards my future.
Yes.
So I wanted to find a job like interior design, because then I can learn something in that field. Maybe I can use that in the future for sets, right? And it did really help.
That's great.
So I got a job in one of the famous companies in Korea, and I was an interior designer. I secretly, after the work, I came home and I locked my door and I started preparing the portfolio because I had to start applying to school. So I did that completely secretly from my parents and my coworkers, my sister, all of them. Wow. So but then my portfolio, each portfolio was like this thick, and I sent it to very few schools, and I was waiting for the admission, and I got admission, and that's when I broke the news to everyone.
Wow.
And I said, at that time, it wasn't, can I go because I have a admission? It was like, I'm gonna go, and they have to follow.
It takes a lot of courage for someone who has never lived in the States or in another country and who has this passion, as you did, to want to become an art director, to do what you did.
It was not easy, and when I landed over there, I felt like I was dropped from the plane by myself, and it was desert, you know. And people still, even American friends, that I met at the time, they thought it was very brave. But I didn't think I felt any fear. I felt more excitement because I was so excited to be there. I was so excited to have that opportunity to learn.
Yes.
And soon after, even before I enjoyed that excitement, the IMF hit. So
the economic crisis in the late 90s.
Yes. IMF, the economic crash hit, and I got a phone call from my parents in Korea saying, you have to come back because we cannot really support you. Even their support, I asked them if they can support me for 1 year, that would be great. I had some money that I saved. It wasn't enough. So I needed a little bit extra help. But that they couldn't afford that either. So the joy and excitement was about to crash.
Even Americans find it difficult to be established in Hollywood and to even do one film. How did you get started, and how have you sustained such a long career there?
I think the break in to Hollywood, a lot of people say it's the hardest thing. To me, that kind of happened easier or easily. I worked on this Korean film called Love, and that was my very first production design project. But after the project, the line producer was American, and he kept 2 people from entire staff. And one was me, the other person was American first AD. He took these 2 people to his next film. And that's how I continue or started to know more people and start breaking into Hollywood features. And I don't know what was the key that I could stay there longer. All I remember I did was I just gave 200% on each job I did and try to come up with, in every single situation, whether it's difficult or not, I try to come up with the best idea I can think of, and I try to come up with best attitude to deal with that problem or work, and did my best and try to be honest with my crew.
You know, attitude is so important working at any job. And no matter how skilled someone is at something, if we have a bad attitude or if someone has a bad attitude, you don't want to work with that person. And they quickly develop a really bad reputation. How is it that under such stress that you were able to maintain such a positive or good attitude towards your work?
Because what we do on set every single day is extremely hard work, extremely unexpected too. So when you're 100% prepared and you show up, some unexpected stuff happens on set. You just have to quickly adapt that situation and come up with next, come up with solution. No one wants somebody sitting there is like, oh, we didn't think this, we didn't plan this. We all know that already. We don't want to hear the complaint. We just want to move to next. And I learned that pretty quickly. And I realized I don't want to hear what others do that, like this complaining. Maybe someone who hired me don't want to hear that from me either. So I try to come up with ideas and solution. And I think that impressed a lot of people in that circumstance.
As you were just starting out in Hollywood, did you ever have to take a job that wasn't related to what you wanted to do?
Yes, I did. There were times that I was absolutely out of job and I was broke. And one day I realized I had only $100 in my bank, and my rent alone was $400 at the time. And so I realized I really have to go out and do something, feed myself. Otherwise, I'll be on the street. So then I went out and I found myself the waitress job at sushi restaurant. So, yeah, I totally felt like a loser, or I felt so confused. Because every day you're questioning yourself. I was questioning myself, okay, I fought so hard to come here at first place. And I quit great job to come here. And I graduated, and now I have a master of fine art. And I'm here serving sushi dishes. What am I doing to myself? What am I doing to my career? Why am I wasting my time here? What if I go back to Korea? And then when I question that, I already see my friends who went back to Korea and they're starting up their career fast and great. I'm like, why am I staying here? What kind of stuff do I want here? That was a question I had to ask myself every single day. And it was very difficult because I could not find the answer, right? But I had this feeling that I believe, or the belief I had. I have to spend more time here until I see that I've done my best, or I've done and I've seen it all, or I've gone through this all the way. That was a thing that I wanted to search. So therefore, I figured I have to just endure this time. Let this time pass and maybe I can figure something out.
She was an ordinary girl without a dream. But when she turned 16, someone recommended that she become a stage designer, and since then, that's all she's lived for. Even when she finally entered Hollywood, things didn't become any easier. Despite the few mistakes along the way, she continued to move forward, never losing sight of her goal. She turned her mistakes into learning opportunities, and soon became one of the highly sought-after art director and production designers in America.
As an art director, you create something from absolutely nothing. And it's something that I think a lot of people just kind of take for granted because we watch movies, we see TV shows all the time, but the production doesn't just happen by itself. Tell us about one of your most memorable or unforgettable kind of set designs and set productions to date.
One of the moments that, maybe the moment that I don't forget or I remember forever, was this TV show called Halfway Home. It was the house, actual location they picked was the house, Victorian style house. It wasn't falling apart. You could see the steps to the second floor. If you step forward, then you could feel it's about to collapse. And I think some scary movie, the horror movie was shot before our production, so I could see the corn syrup all over the walls.
Corn syrup meaning?
Like red syrup that decreased the blood on film. It was everywhere. And carpet, it was on the floor. It smelled like urine. But I don't know what was his story, but the house was really in bad shape. Even producers came to me, he's like, you got 10 days to convert this place to TV set. Can you make this happen? And I said, that's why I'm here for. And they're like, okay. Even if they liked the confidence coming from me, they were still very skeptical.
Yes.
And but then we made it happen. And over the course of period, their eyes with this doubts. And we have like 6, 7 different producers, and everyone had their own opinion about the color, carpet versus linoleum, or any decisions, major decisions that I had to make, and I needed their approval. I had to deal with 7 different voices.
Wow.
It was very political, and we had to paint the living room like 6, 7 times because one day it's yellow, one day it's green, one day it's orange. You know, it was all different opinion, but we made it through. Finally, right before the shoot day, when I walked into the set, those 7 producers who gave me the skeptical eyes in the beginning all got up and gave me the standing ovation.
Oh.
So that was nice.
When you're working on set, and it's not a completely built-up set that's in the studio, and you go someplace else, whether it's nature or a 100-year-old Victorian house, I imagine that you have to be very careful to make sure that it's kind of back in its original state where you found it, or better. Is there some stress with that?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's always places, it's very delicate. Whether it's $20 million Hollywood mansion we shot, or the 100-year-old cafe was in Philadelphia called a City Tavern.
Oh, I'm familiar with that place.
Oh
yes,
yeah, you know?
Yes, yes.
It's the floor is original. Everything is original there. And one day, I think it was the end of the production. We all finished, and the owner found out little tiny crack on the mirror. It's a 100-year-old mirror.
Oh no!
And the replacement value was $2 million. And the owner was going crazy. It's like, somebody broke this mirror.
Oh
and,
no! What happened?
I think they settle with the owner. The production, usually when that happens, they take the owner, to the side, and they kind of try to search where the problem started, or was it there before we came. And so as an art department, to protect ourselves, what I do, usually I video film every single corner, because a lot of times our department is the first department to be blamed. They just think that way. I don't know why. We're the most careful department. And then usually they think it's art department. So to make my own evidence, I have to film every single corner. And I have to also film, I take pictures. So not only videotape, I take pictures of everything.
Wow.
So when we bring it back, we compare every single shot to that corner and bring it back to where it was.
Such meticulous work that's necessary.
Yes, and a lot of times production gets help from art department. They come to me and saying, Yoo-jung, do you have any records or any documents or pictures to prove this place was like this before? And I saved them a lot of times too with my picture.
That's fantastic that you do that. That's probably why the filmmakers choose you time and again, and you've gained their trust. It's not easy to build a good reputation, and it's easy to lose your reputation in just one kind of project. And you've been able to continue to do great work, getting a lot of respect from those that are looking for the best.
I have to fight with myself a lot of times. And the thing is, you know, once you get a little bit comfortable, or you feel like you know a lot, that's where it's dangerous, because you can start falling into the mannerism. And earlier on of my career, I saw this production designer. He was a Paramount guy. His drawing is beautiful, and he's from theater, so he got very strong sense of sets. But he told me, but one day he told me, Yoo-jung, I just want to share this story with you, because he said he was a Paramount guy for 10 years, and one day his phone stopped ringing. That's really scary. He had kids, and he has, you know, he had to send his kids to college. He got this house he purchased, and cars. He's locked into all these payments, and phones stop ringing. That's everyone's fear, right? And after, he couldn't figure out why. And that story made me feel like I need to find out why to prevent me being that person. And I start asking my friends or other production designer or my mentors, asking their opinion. And their opinion was because maybe he fell in his own mannerism, and maybe he was creating same thing again and again, and that's what made people stop calling him.
Wow.
That's pretty profound.
It is.
And I decide, well, it's important to have your own style, because sometimes that's why people call you, right? Because they see your style and they like it. But at the same time, you have to keep yourself distant from your own style. And the way I do is I just open myself up to everything. And wherever I go, whatever I do, I try to open all the senses, my eyes, my smell, you know, taste, everything, so I can adapt all that to me without noticing. I'm like keeping that and stack them up in my own library. And when I need something, at least I know it's there, and it will start coming out little by little.
A completely empty room turned into a high-end restaurant with a beautifully textured curtain and lighting added in all the right places. A fabulous filming set with New York as the backdrop.
It just sends me to a rage of no return. I'm a little crazy. Come closer.
An uninhabited island turns into a beautiful paradise where everyone wishes to be. Creating something out of nothing. Han Yoo-jung asserts that talent and skills are definitely essential, but what's even more important is to build trust with the people you work with for your talent to truly shine.
I hear that you have a studio. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I have a little art studio slash production. in 2008, I created this Han Studios to create some content to be the bridge between Korea and US, maybe more specifically Korean entertainment and Korean, Hollywood. It could be overall, but then it covers culture, arts, and entertainment. So I wanted to create some content, anything to relate these two countries to, and put these two countries to one. So I created some content related Korean food to show more information about Korean food to American people, because I thought I want Korean culture to be embedded in US or embedded in the world, and I figured the interest comes from knowledge. So I wanted to create the knowledge. That's why I start spreading out this knowledge to people. And then the knowledge will catch some interest, attention, and then that will spread out. And then eventually, Korean culture will be more embedded to American culture.
How do you think that Korean contents can be put more into the American mainstream?
Yes. Oh, I'm very interested in that subject. Also, I'm pushing myself to go in there, actually make that example happen. That's one of the challenges I gave it to myself. I'm actually developing this project that it keeps Korean originality, but it also has a story, contains Korean story. But we're gonna actually drop this into Hollywood mainstream. Some people could say, why we have to go to Hollywood? Why do we have to break into Hollywood mainstream? Why can't we just sustain in Asia and be popular in here? And that's it. I think the reason, A, market is big there. Anything, and B, also anything succeed in US happen to succeed worldwide. That's already proven. So to us, or to me, I take that as a challenge. Let's try it. So create something, maybe just like no one expected Psy will create something that will work worldwide.
Right.
And it worked. And it continues to work. Maybe I can create some movies that it works in Hollywood mainstream with my own original idea. That's my challenge, and I want to prove it to myself one day, in very near future.
I hope I can see some of that too. So tell us some about your future plans. Tell us something about what your pursuits are, what your dreams are going forward. It seems like you have a lot of ideas.
Yeah, I'm very greedy. When it comes to dream and pursuing something, sometimes I pursue whole different things, like so many areas. But right now, my main goal is, actually, I want to expand my horizon. And like I said earlier, I want to try to be a producer, create the content that it works for both countries, and it works in Hollywood with Korean originality. And that's one. And two is also, I want, I think it maybe became more specific lately. But before, it was all about me, and I move forward, like straightforward. But as I get older, I kind of want to start sharing. And one of the sharing, I relate that to education. So I want to start sharing what I know to people who's been emailing me or who's been inspired by me or want to do something that I did, but they don't know how. Or they don't have any source. And this really struck me when I met this little student from New York. She grew up in Korea, but she got inspired by me and she went to New York. But she contacted me and said she wants to come and visit LA to see me. Because she wants to know more about the production design and art director. In fact, she was attending New York school. When I had a conversation with her, I realized the difficulty of breaking into this industry is almost same difficulty as 15 years ago. with
So
all this,
that hasn't changed at all.
no, even with today's technology, smartphone and internet and all of that, she was going through exact or maybe more frustration than I went through. And that really inspired me and pushed me more to teach people or help those people to know more. And I want them to, sometimes I don't want them to go through what I went through. Maybe they can skip all the difficulties or unnecessary experience that I went through by being taught by me.
So can we see in your future you training these kind of junior art directors?
Yeah.
How soon do you think we can see that?
As soon as by this winter.
Oh, fantastic.
Han Yoo-jung has achieved her dream of becoming a successful art director. Now, she has turned her eyes over to something else. Her goal now is to serve as a mentor for those entering the industry and help them get established in Hollywood without too many trials and errors.
내가 왜 뭘 했는지 표현할 수만 있으면 돼. 근데 그냥 이쁘다고 그리는 거가 아닌 거죠. 그렇죠? 의미 있는 거잖아. The purpose of doing this, from my point of view, is I want you to see their imagination level. It's not about who draws better than the others, right? And then I've seen so far they had an extremely hard time making their imagination transform that to the image. This is the problem or the difficulty a lot of Korean students have, even if they go outside of the country as adult. We always get used to be told what to do. So they have a hard time getting their own imagination in their head and try to express that.
Why do you think it is that we see so few Asian Americans in Hollywood in general, but especially in art direction? So few Koreans.
Yeah. It might be a prejudice, you know. I don't know if that's the reason, but I can see it from other point of view. For example, there are a lot of Europeans, you know, because America maybe think Europeans are very artistic. Yes, they do have a history, lot longer than American, and they do have this. Italians are known for their fashion sense and their great sensibility of art. French, British, you know, and we have to compete with them, not only American, but also a bunch of Europeans too. And maybe people think Asian people are so specific or special with their own culture. And it's different. We divide it up as West and East. And yes, we're from East. And I think, but overall, that will be changed because these days, world becomes global. It becomes one, or it starts to be one. Or maybe the process has started already. With that movement, maybe the prejudice will change one day dramatically because we become one, then maybe having sensibility from East it's actually unique and great, and it helps American or helps West people from West. Because I think the perfect point will be when it's mixed in the middle.
Yeah.
So
I say yes to being mixed.
yes,
Hey.
I like that.
Last but not least, what does Hollywood mean to you, Yoo-jung?
Hollywood. It's obviously gave me the great opportunity to learn not only what I know right now, I learned life. And I learned how to become the great person just to be in there. And so it's a great teacher to me. Hollywood is a great teacher, but at the same time, it's a very tough teacher. Because it taught me happiest moment of my life, but at the same time, it taught me the toughest moment of my life. And it is challenging daily. So I guess it's like kind of love and hate relationship in a sense. And I think tend to lean a little bit towards love more than hate. Yeah, that's how I feel every day with Hollywood.
It's been such a pleasure to talk to you and learn so much more about your profession and also about your experiences, not just as a Korean who's gone to the States and been successful in this industry that few Asian Americans are succeeding, but to hear about your perseverance and your absolute commitment to doing such an amazing job. And I think it's a testament to your hard work that you are where you are now, and I wish you all the success going forward.
Oh, thank you.
Great, and it's such a pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure meeting you too.